Hi, I'm Susan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and you are watching Mad Knitting. This is my YouTube channel all about my crafting life and whatever else I feel like talking about. So 95% of the content here is going to be knitting, but every once in a blue moon, I also engage in sewing or quilting projects and sometimes hand stitching. So when I have those things to share, then I do. You can find me on social media as madtownmama on Ravelry and Bluesky and madtown_mama on Instagram. I live in Madison, Wisconsin with my husband, and I have two kids. One's in college, so for tax purposes, he's still a member of the household, but he doesn't live with us full time anymore. And I have a daughter in high school as well. It's late April 2025. So spring is here according to the calendar, and there are like green things popping up out of the ground, but this being Wisconsin, we can have a 70-degree day and then we can have a very cold day and a dusting of snow. So, you know, up in the upper Midwest, it's just, the weather's changing all the time. My daughter actually is in a class at school where they went on a camping trip a couple of weeks ago, and it was snowing when they left. I don't think it like accumulated, but it was pretty cold overnight. So I was really glad that she had a wool sweater and wool socks and a wool hat to wear all night to keep her warm. And yeah, I worried about her a little bit, but she was fine. She's a Wisconsin baby, so this is just normal to her. Let's see. I have all knitting to share with you today, and at the end I will talk about some other stuff, but I think as far as crafting goes, it's all knitting. Let's start with what I'm wearing. This is the same sweater I wore in my last episode, which was almost 3 weeks ago, I think. I usually try to post about every 2 weeks so I don't have stuff like a backlog of stuff that I'm working on, but the month of April has been a little bit banana pants. I work full-time for a nonprofit. There's been a lot going on there, but I also am a professional musician. I am a trained pianist. I did that as my whole career for a while. And this time of year, there's just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of students who are looking for pianists. I had a gig yesterday, so anyway, it's just been a lot to keep up with, and I haven't had the time or the mental space to sit down and record. But here we are. I am wearing the Community Cardi. This is a pattern by Alicia Plummer. It's the same thing I was wearing last time, so I won't go over all the details again, but I did sew on the buttons, so I thought I'd show you those. These are some vintage buttons I picked up at the Wisconsin Sheep and Wool Festival. And I think they go perfectly with this cardigan. They're very, very lightweight. I think they must be made of plastic, but it's really nice that they don't weigh down the sweater at all. I'm wearing it over a running shirt, which I put on as motivation to actually go running later this afternoon, because getting outside and moving is one way that I am coping with the state of the world right now, but I'll talk more about that later. Okay, let's see. I have one finished object to share, and I've started a lot of things. So I finished this sweater for my niece. If this looks, you can see the crease because I've had it folded up. If this looks familiar, it's because I made a very similar one for her older sister. So my brother has two daughters. The older one just turned 9 last month, so I made her a sweater along with some other stuff. And the younger one will turn 7 at the end of May. So I made her a sweater that's similar to the one for her sister. By the way, I got the best thank you note, and I want to share it with you. So it says, "Dear Auntie Susu, understand that my nieces have another aunt named Susan on their mother's side. So this is how they tell us apart when they're talking about us. I'm Auntie Susu. She gets to be Aunt Susan. Dear Auntie Susu, thank you so very much for the dress, tank top, and sweater." So I had sewed her a dress and another little top along with the sweater they made her. I wore the dress to my birthday party, and although I don't wear tank tops, this one is different. Thank you. She signed her name, which I will cover up, and drew a little heart. But this made me laugh because I thought, okay, so the tank top maybe wasn't the favorite thing. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Like, kids can be finicky. Yeah, I was very charmed by all that. So yeah, this is the same sweater in a smaller size that I made for my younger niece. The pattern is Sunshine. It's by Tin Can Knits. So like just about every Tin Can Knits pattern, it comes in sizes from like newborn baby to adult. I'm not sure what the largest chest measurement is, probably between 65 and 70 inches circumference. So there's a lot of sizes in there. It's DK weight. It's top down. Obviously, you can see there's a color work yoke. This was really, really fun to knit. The fact that I did 2 in a row did not bore me, did not tire me. I just had a lot of fun with it. The yarn I used is Swish DK from Knitpicks, and I didn't bring all the leftovers here, but I think I remember all the colors. So for both sweaters, for both this one and the other one, this by the way is a 6 to 8 size, like age 6 to 8. The main color here is Wonderland Heather. It's like this nice pale aqua, but I switched up the contrast colors because my younger niece really loves bright pinks. So this brightest pink that is very prominent in the color work is called Crush, and it was left over from a sweater I made her for Christmas. The dark one is called Throne. For these pale colors, I don't even know how well you can see, but I used white for part of it, and closer to the middle I used this pale pink called Frosting. And then this was really fun. For this contrast stripe in the middle, that's the color Clementine, which I mentioned before. I was hoping when I ordered it that it would be a brighter orange, but I think it works just fine. I really like how all the colors go together in this sweater. I did do the short rows after the color work because I really don't like it when there's no way to raise that back neck. The only change I made to the original pattern, of course, was that I made short sleeves. My nieces live in Virginia. They tend to run warm. I thought that if I made a short sleeve sweater, there would be more opportunity to wear it over multiple seasons. I've talked about this yarn before, but I will comment that Swish DK is kind of an odd yarn. It's 100% superwash merino. They have it in on like a worsted weight as well as the DK weight. I can't remember if there's also a bulky. It is very soft. It's very nice to knit with. Like it feels good to knit with it. It's not grippy because it's superwash treated, but it doesn't have that like slippery feeling that a lot of superwash yarns do. So that was all good, and it made the color work an enjoyable part of the process. Sometimes if yarns are too slippery, I just don't enjoy the color work part, but that wasn't so bad for this sweater. One of the odd things about it though is that it seems to knit up at a much, much tighter gauge initially than after you wash and block it. So I knew this was coming because this happened in the Christmas cardigans I made them. It happened in the Sunshine that I made for my older niece. The sweater was much smaller before I soaked it. And it's just like the stitches just needed to get wet and kind of relax into their final size, and they didn't bounce back. Now, if you put this in the dryer for the entire time, which I would not recommend, I think that would wear it out. I don't know how much it would shrink up, but I think that the way it turned out is really, really nice. I don't think I would trust this yarn for an adult sized garment because I don't know how much it would stretch and everything. And also because it's very soft, it will pill very quickly. it comes with the beast. It's part of it. I think that for kids, it's probably worth it because if it doesn't itch, obviously they're more likely to wear it. They're going to grow out of it soon enough that it won't have as much opportunity to pill. Yeah, so it might be worth the effort just to do a depilling comb every once in a while if it starts looking shabby. But I'm really happy with this. I will hang on to it for a few weeks and send it closer to her birthday. But yeah, that is my one finished object. Now, when it comes to works in progress, I have several, and I think only one of these things I had started in my last episode. So most of these are new. We'll start with socks. One of these days I will make more interesting socks than just like plain stockinette or plain garter rib. But today is not that day, my friends. Today is not that day. This one almost isn't worth showing you because there was a couple of Sundays ago, I think it was after I finished that little sweater, when it was warm and sunny outside. I wanted to sit outside and cast on a new project and just sort of check out from everything for a little bit. So I did. I brought out enough supplies to cast on 2 pairs of socks. This is one of them, and it looks like I made it through the cast on and 1 round of 1x1 ribbing before setting it down. So that's what I mean by it's like hardly even worth showing you. But the yarn is cool. So I went ahead and decided to talk about it. This is from Knitcircus. Knitcircus no longer has a brick and mortar store, but their business is based here in Madison, so they're local to me. And they have in the past been open for like the shop hop day in October. This I ordered online. I think I ordered it last year to support Pride Month. In fact, this color is called, the first Pride was a Riot, and it's speckled, obviously. There's lots and lots of colors in here. And it's the 100% superwash BFL, blue-faced Leicester yarn. I have made socks out of BFL before, not Knitcircus, from a different dyer, so I don't think the base was the same, but I really like those socks. They feel really good on my feet. You know, they're starting to wear a little bit, but they're not pilling or looking bad. They're just kind of developing a nice halo. So I don't know if these would behave the same way, but I'm looking forward to seeing how the speckles come out and how these look. I think socks are the one place where I feel fine about using a very wildly variegated yarn. So yeah, you can see there's just about every color here, including bits of black, which I think is cool. So that's my first work in progress. The reason I haven't done more of this is because I started another pair of socks. These are for a friend who is moving away in the next couple of months. Don't know exactly when. They just announced a job change in another state. So all I need to do is like pull the yarn through the toe and this first sock will be complete. But there's nothing special about these, like no special pattern here. It's just a stockinette, you know, ribbed cuff, stockinette everywhere. I have partridge heel. This is how I do many socks. But this person really likes purple, and I've noticed that they tend to wear like muted colors. So I was digging through my sock stash and I found this skein of yarn. It's by Artistic Lilly, who is like went out of business a few years ago. I think she quit doing that, so I can't link to a shop, I'm afraid. But this is what the label looks like. I actually still have it. And the colorway is called Vintage Easter. You can see it's a really cute illustration of a lamb. The blend of yarn is 80/20 merino nylon. It has a nice tight twist, so I've probably knit on this same base before, not from this dyer, but I think a lot of dyers get their base yarns from the same couple of places. So I've probably knit with this before, and it has a nice stitch definition. It looks like it will hold up well. And I really like how the speckles and variegation have come out in this sock. So for this, I used size 1 needles. I cast on 72 stitches, and I made it approximately to fit like a men's size 9 shoe for this person. So yeah, I need to get the second one done before they move away. But this has been a great project to take with me for all the times when I am, you know, sitting through meetings, sitting through concerts, performances, what have you, because I don't need instructions. It doesn't take up a lot of room, you know, that kind of thing. A to-go project. My third work in progress, I did share last time, although I've made quite a lot of progress on it since then, and I actually remembered the label to show you this time. So I am making the Simply Curious shawl. It's a pattern by Hudlin Stewart, also known as Curious Handmade. And this has been a really nice meditative project to work on. It's not really a great portable project because even though it's a simple pattern, because she has this checklist system where you can check off literally every single row as you go, I have not internalized the pattern repeat. I've just been very dependent on looking at the instructions row by row, which is kind of comforting and also a little bit disturbing. Like, stick with me here. I think in times of great chaos and upheaval, high control groups like cults and very high control religions thrive because people are so overwhelmed. It's hard for them to make decisions on their own. And the prospect of somebody else telling them exactly what to do and like kind of handing over that responsibility can feel like a relief. Which is pretty disturbing because it sets you up to be manipulated and controlled in ways that can be very, very harmful. I don't think this is happening in a knitting pattern, but I will say there's a lot going on, right? In our world, in my work life, etc. And to have a pattern where I can like turn off the thinking part of my brain and the, you know, sort of take control leadership part of my brain and just give it over to somebody else to tell me what to do exactly row by row is kind of a relief. And it's a little weird how there's that parallel. Don't worry, I have not joined a cult. I don't intend to. I know what the red flags are. And I think and this designer is absolutely lovely. We've had corresponded before online, like, this is not saying anything about her. I just was making that parallel with my own kind of process here. Anyway, it's one of the nice things about her patterns is that she does them all that way. So you can always check your stitch count. She includes percentages of, you know, like when you're halfway through the project, if you want to weigh your yarn and make sure you're going to have enough left, you can do that. Like, she really does make it very easy for you. It's a lot of hand holding. That's the positive spin on it, okay? There's a lot of hand holding. She walks you through. Anyway, as you can see, it's like the stitch pattern is really pretty intuitive, even though I haven't let my intuition take over. It's just garter stitch, and every so often you have a row with a bunch of eyelets all the way. You increase gradually. I think this is going to be like an asymmetrical thing at some point. And it's very soothing, and I'll probably make another one. This is my kind of shawl. Not too hard, not too complicated, not too fiddly. And I think it'll look really nice when it's done. As you can see, I have like a slow color changing yarn. So it's green at the beginning and getting more blue, and it's gonna get lighter as we go. This is what the rest of the cake looks like. So I don't know if I'll get all the way into the middle, into the white section, but if I used it all up, that's what it would be like on one side. I have the label. I'm pretty sure I forgot the label last time, so I actually went and looked for it before I set everything up for the video here. I got it on sale at Webb's a few years ago because I have no self-discipline when it comes to online sales, apparently. Here it is. It's Shades of Merino. It's by Lana Grossa. Shades of Merino cotton. And this is indeed half wool, half cotton yarn. I had thought it wasn't an exactly even split, but it is. And I don't know if, like, the construction of the yarn is kind of weird. I know I showed you all this last time, but it's not plied at all. There's like 4 strands that just sort of run parallel to each other. They're not twisted up or anything. You can really see it on the parts where I had a knot that I had to, I had to break the yarn because there was a knot in it. So it's just like, I mean, it's kind of like when you have many strands of embroidery floss. They're not really twisted, they're just sort of together. It makes it a little bit challenging because it's very easy to split your stitches, and there are even a few places where there's like an errant loop here or there where one of the strands just didn't get caught in the stitches. Especially if you're doing knit 2 together with the yarn over, that's a little tricky. That said, because this is a simple pattern and because I'm not like I'm not schlepping around with this, I have not minded so much. I think if I was doing anything complicated or trying to make a garment, I maybe wouldn't feel the same way. But for this kind of project, it's very nice. I have another skein that's like in rainbow colors, and I may very well just make another Simply Curious shawl out of that yarn too. I haven't decided if I will keep this. I might give it away. I can think of several people who would like something like this, and I just don't, as much as I like making shawls sometimes, I don't always wear them very often, because they slide around and like it's just easier and more comfortable for me to put on a sweater. Okay, my last work in progress is another sweater for me. Once I finished the community cardie, I really wanted to start another sweater for myself, and it was hard to decide what to do because I have a lot of yarn and I have a lot of ideas and I just wasn't sure. But I settled on, and I don't think I have a good picture, so I'll find one and put it on the screen, but it's called A Bloom, and it's by Ann Ginger, and it's from an online magazine. I think it's from Making Stories. So I don't think that you can buy the pattern individually at this time online. I think she has the rights to sell it as an independent designer, but she just hasn't yet. So Ann Ginger has been designing for a long time. She has many talents. I've actually met her in person a couple of times because she, like, we've had conversations online, and she comes through Madison every once in a while, and we've met up for coffee, and it's just been an absolute delight. So she shared this pattern with me, which is very nice of her. So she doesn't say to start with a sleeve, but I did just because I wanted to, I don't know, I just want to get the sleeves done first to avoid Sleeve Island, I guess. And I have the entire first sleeve done, and I've got I just finished the bottom ribbing part on the second sleeve, and I'm ready to go up a needle size and start the, the pattern part. So it is done in pieces and seamed. I think the fronts and the back, it's a cardigan. Don't know if I mentioned that. I think the fronts and the back are all done on one piece, and then you split at the armhole, but I will have to sew the sleeve up, along the underarm, or, up the arm, and then I'll have to sew it into the cardigan. I don't mind doing that. I grew up learning how to knit like in the 80s and 90s when everything was done that way, even color work, which is kind of mind-boggling. So sewing things up doesn't bother me. And I don't know, I think you avoid a jog this way in the sleeve. Like it just, I think it looks good. So it's got this cool stitch pattern. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It kind of looks like a cable, but it's not. It's sort of a cluster stitch that you do every several rows. And as you can see, they're kind of staggered. So you do end up with a little bit of a cable-like look because of the way they're spaced out. The yarn I'm using is not what's called for. I think she calls for Biche Bouche. I'm using Brooklyn Tweed Loft. By the way, did you hear that Brooklyn Tweed is no longer making yarn? They're giving up that part of the business. I was reading it online that they, like, after Hurricane Ida, I think, like, their dye house that they contracted with was basically destroyed, and they've just had a lot of sourcing problems. And I mean, I don't know all the inside scoop, but supply chain issues and, you know, drastic events thanks to climate change just made it really hard for them to, like impossible, obviously, for them to stay in the yarn business. So they will continue with their designing, I guess. So this is the color Long Johns. Coming off slightly orange in the lighting today, which is gloomy. But whoops, it's really not orange at all. It's really kind of a dark red, a dark heathery red, and I love it. I love this color. I don't know how in love I am with Loft yarn. It is incredibly delicate. It feels like it will snap if I look at it sideways, or that it's, you know, it's got all the strength of wet construction paper. But I've had it in my stash for ages. I bought a sweaters quantity when a yarn shop was going out of business. Like, how long ago was this? 7, 8 years ago? A while ago now. Pre-COVID, I know that much. And I mean, it is very light and it feels very lovely. So yeah. So I have just over 1,600 yards. I am making the second size sweater, which I think will give me a circumference of 36 or 36 and a half inches. That's a few inches of ease. It's a cardigan and I didn't want it to be like super tight. But I just like big sloppy oversized stuff is not my look either. So I'm kind of trying to find that perfect middle ground. But yeah. So I might have to, in terms of yardage, I might not be able to make the full length sweater. To be fair, the pattern, the original design has a pretty long body. Like I think it's an 18 inches from the underarm to the hem, which would be on me probably like below my hips. And I'm, you know, I would be happy with it a few inches shorter than that. So I think that I won't run out of yarn. I think I'll be okay with that. But yeah, I am enjoying this, and it's really cool to knit something by a designer that I kind of know. I mean, I guess I've knit a lot of stuff by Thea Coleman, and I've met her a couple of times and everything, but yeah, it's just a nice feeling. That's it for the knitting content. I had hoped that I would have some sewing to show you because I have a project for my nieces that was actually a request, but I haven't made it yet, so I'm just gonna wait until next time when I've actually completed this thing and tell you about it. Maybe I'll try to do some footage like as I go so that you can see the process, because this thing they've requested is sort of a new adventure for me. Hopefully not too difficult. But I did want to just take just a little time to first of all acknowledge the horribleness that is happening in this world right now. I feel like in the past several episodes I start off that way, and you know, I don't know. I don't want to drag everybody down. I don't think it helps to like enumerate all the new horrible things happening in the news. And I'm also like, I'm not a legal or historic or political scholar or expert, so I don't really know that I have helpful context to offer there. You know, anything I say would just be parroting what I've read by much more knowledgeable people than me that I've found online. But in all of that uncertainty, as well as just, there's just a lot of stuff like going on in my work right now. That's been kind of a lot. Like, there are a few things that I have found have been very helpful for me. So I thought I would just share like what I'm doing. I also want to say, like, I think sometimes people like overstate sort of the significance of things like taking time to rest and, you know, doing things for yourself. Like, not all of that is necessarily some big act of resistance or some big political thing. You're just taking care of yourself so that you can maintain, you know, your life and continue to be a good person to people around you. But that is really important, whether or not you consider that an act of resistance, I guess. So I'll just say, one thing I do is I get outside when I can, even though the weather is crummy. Like, that's why I put on a running shirt, because I know that even if I don't really want to get out there, once I do, and once I get my heart rate up and I see my neighborhood and run through the parks and run through the trails and, you know, get some fresh air, I always feel better when I'm done. So that's one thing I do. I'm also looking forward to gardening this spring. Usually by now I have more of a plan. Like, I'll draw out like a diagram of all my garden areas and decide what I want to put where. I'm a little behind on that, but we're still a few weeks out before the last frost date. So I've got time to decide what I want to do, see if I want to try to make permanent changes, like move some perennials around or plant some more fruit trees or something. I don't know yet, but just thinking about that and getting outside in the dirt is really good for me. I know not everybody enjoys gardening and not everybody has the time or the space for it. So maybe this applies to you, maybe not. I'm just sharing a little bit what I'm doing. Another thing I've mentioned, I mean, if you know me or if you've been watching for a while, you know that I'm a musician by background and by profession. I did that. That was my exclusive career for a long time, up until about 7 years ago. And I've had a lot of music gigs recently. And even though it's kind of stressful to find the practice time and to fit the rehearsals in around my work schedule and make it all happen, there is something incredibly that just feels good about making music and about the tactile sensation of my fingers on the piano keys. I mean, this is my instrument here. It's nothing fancy. It's just a studio upright I bought, man, almost 20 years ago now. My son was a baby and I needed an instrument to practice at home. So that's why we got it. So yeah, not quite 20 years ago, but it's just, and I think there's like some scientific evidence to back this up, that repetitive physical movement with both hands is good for you. But, you know, like yesterday I had a gig that I did not have a ton of time to prepare for. I did not have rehearsal time with some of the soloists. We basically just checked tempos beforehand. And it wasn't note perfect by any means, but I held it together and it was really fun. And the audience was very appreciative. And the guy who was running the whole event, like, just reminded everyone how important it is, especially like not only in good times, but especially in hard times, how important it is to find joy and sing together. And that's what we were doing. So you know, whether you are a music maker yourself or you just enjoy listening to it, I think, you know, don't underestimate the power of that to like lift your mood and calm your heart. And yeah, so there's that. And then here's kind of a funny little thing. I was at the office supply store the other day because we were out of printer paper, and as I made my way up to the checkout, I saw they had a little art section, and they had these little watercolor paint sets for making your own bookmarks. It was like $5 for one of these tablets, and I've already painted one. But basically, like what they do, there are some blank sheets, but it also has these pre-printed designs. And then these are watercolor paints. So it's kind of a one-use thing, I guess, because it's not like it's just on the paper. So it's perforated. You can pull this off and you can color it in. And there's even a little brush included. I've done one already, but there's a little brush in the back. And this is not like super high quality or anything, but my mind, you know, it was Saturday, my mind was racing. I had just a million little things stressing me out. Not big things, little things. It's always those little things piling up that stress me out. And I didn't even listen to music or anything. I just sat down at the table and I got a little bowl of water and I painted a bookmark, and I painted it almost exactly like the example on the cover. And it was just a really nice meditative way to spend like 20 minutes. It's got butterflies and flowers and leaves. And it was really nice. And I'm going to do more of them. And then I'll have all these bookmarks and I can keep them or give them away or whatever. So yeah, I think like these quiet meditative activities can actually be really impactful. I'm not a person who can just sit still and meditate, but if I'm playing piano or coloring or knitting or whatever, it's just good. And then finally, I've been reading I have 2 books that I will share with you. I've read a lot and I don't want to go on and on about books, but this one, since we're just coming off of Easter, I thought it appropriate, I guess, to mention this one. It came out last year. It's called Baptist Land. It's by Krista Brown. The subtitle is A Memoir of Abuse, Betrayal, and Transformation. And I have to tell you, this is a really tough read. I know that I say that about a lot of books I read, but Krista Brown, I think she's in her 60s, but she grew up in Texas. Her family was incredibly dysfunctional. Like, all of her sisters were abusive to her. Her mother was incredibly manipulative. Her father was violent and had PTSD from being in World War II. I mean, there was just a lot of difficulty there. And on top of that, they went to a Southern Baptist church where she was sexually abused for a whole year by the youth pastor. So that's hard to read about. All of that is really hard to read about, but I think for me, and I'm not quite done with it, but I'm close. I'm like on the last couple of chapters. But the hardest part was that years later, I mean, she led the way in exposing the abuse of the Southern Baptist Convention, and trying to draw attention to it and centering victims and survivors of abuse, because there are so many of them. And the way she was treated by that church and by that whole convention was really hard to stomach. I mean, if you've ever, come across accounts by people who have been abused, they will often say that the response and lack of accountability from institutions around them was worse than the abuse itself. I've heard that over and over again from different sources. And she talks about that too in here, that, what was done to her was horrifying and caused her a lot of trauma and difficulty, but that it was not only covered up, but enabled. on the inside and then like denied on the outside, and that they just kept trying to make her look like the bad person in this whole thing, you know, even after she like became an attorney and an expert on the law, was just really hard to stomach. And there's something about her description of that that just feels like it's being reflected on an even larger level now. You know, I feel like where we are in America, like our democracy it's being tested in ways that it hasn't been tested before, at least not since the Civil War, in my inexpert opinion. And the way we're all being collectively manipulated into believing, or they want us to believe, that this is all normal isn't really the right word, but this is all like, if we have a problem with it, it's our fault, or, you know, that somehow this was mandated, you know, all the things they're doing to destroy federal agencies and scapegoat trans people and, you know, resegregate the population, that all of that is somehow within the power that has been granted to a man who thinks of himself as a king. It feels like a bigger version of what she describes in this book. So that's a big downer, I know, but I do recommend the book. I mean, you know, anybody who writes a memoir survived whatever it is they were writing about, and she's an incredible person by all, at least from what I can tell. And it's very well written, so it's like it's a good read. I've had a hard time putting it down. But I'm gonna end on like a little bit of a lighter note, just because I don't want to be a downer. I'm not really that much of a downer person. I live in reality and I keep track of what's going on, basically. That's my vibe. But this book was recommended to me by a friend. It's called Woodswoman. It's by LaBastille. This was written like in the 70s, I think. This woman, like, she was newly divorced. It's copyright 1976. But I think it was in the 60s. She was like newly divorced and like wanted to build her own log cabin in the Adirondacks and live there in seclusion, and she did. So this book is about that. I'm not super far into it, but she did. She built a cabin. I mean, she had some help, but she did a lot of that work by hand. And, you know, this was like real, like living in the wilderness. She had to figure out a whole lot of stuff by herself. She spent most of her time, you know, like finding food and chopping firewood and just like basic survival kind of stuff. Plus she was a writer. Like she had a writing desk, and, you know, it was a place, like a nice sanctuary for her to do her writing as well as her surviving in the wilderness. And it's just, you know, it's just a really good book. I think she has passed away. I think the author is not alive anymore. But there's Woodswoman, and then there's like a sequel to it, which I also have from the library. And this one's already overdue and on hold, so I should probably give it back because it doesn't look like I'm going to finish it soon. But, you know, if you want to like escape back a few decades into a time when the problems were different than they are now, and just read about a woman living in the woods, this is your book. All right. I really need to get back to work, so that's all I have for today. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.